Hello world, an embarrassing Huawei vulnerability was ignored for months. The world's largest password leak has been dumped on hacking forums. Or has it? There's a new old cybercrime gang on the block, and this remarkably elaborate fake streaming site is going to impressive lengths to install malware on your PC. That's in today's episode of The Week Web, where we break down and dissect cybersecurity related tech news. Huawei has come under fire for an embarrassing vulnerability in one of their LTE USB sticks. These things are meant to provide cellular connectivity to laptops, but came with an extra hidden feature. A researcher at TrustWave discovered the bug, which only affects macOS users. The software these dongles come packaged with creates a root-owned script which auto-runs every time the device is inserted. Usually this script just opens the device's management interface, but the researcher noticed the permissions on the script were set incorrectly, which meant any user, regardless of their privileges, could overwrite the script and execute malware on the victim PC every time the device was inserted. Sure, this may not sound all that interesting. At the end of the day, a miscreant would require local access to the computer in order to exploit it, along with the victim using a very specific LTE adapter as well as running on macOS. In the grand scheme of things, this is a relatively low-risk vulnerability, but the reason this exploit has turned out a little embarrassing for Huawei is in how they handled it. The researcher first contacted Huawei last October to report the problem and have it fixed, but heard no response. He persisted for several months and still didn't have much luck, until news website The Register pestered Huawei about it and eventually it got resolved. You would expect a little better from one of the world's largest telecom equipment providers. Huawei has a pretty poor track record when it comes to security. This instance is relatively mild compared to their previous blunders. For example, back in 2019, when many countries were becoming dubious about using Huawei equipment in their 5G networks, the UK commissioned a report into Huawei equipment. The report went through a lot of source code to identify if there were any hidden backdoors or security holes. And whilst they didn't find any backdoors, they did find some horrendous security practices. In one instance, they found 4 different OpenSSL versions being used within the same piece of software, which were vulnerable to a myriad of exploits, with some dating back to 2006. OpenSSL, for the uninitiated, is used to implement a secure communication layer, which, as you can imagine, is pretty important, especially in telecommunications equipment. Following these findings, the UK issued a blanket ban on Huawei equipment at a cost of £2 billion. Billions of passwords have been leaked, and you should be incredibly worried, according to certain news sites. So should you scramble to change your passwords, as Yahoo puts it, or is this all a bit of a non-story? Well, a user on Raid forums has posted a 100GB TXT file which they claimed comprised 82 billion passwords. In reality, the file contains just 8 billion plaintext passwords, according to Cybernews, but in fairness that is still quite a few. The poster dubbed this dump RockU 2021, which is probably why this news story has been getting so much attention. The original RockU password list is famous in the hacker world and originates from the now dissolved company RockU, which was hacked way back in 2009. The hackers used a 10-year-old SQL vulnerability to breach the company, and 32 million passwords were then leaked. The hack wasn't handled very well. Firstly, passwords stored in plaintext should be a no-no. The company also took ages to notify its users. It was all just one massive disaster. The password list rocku.txt went on to gain a lot of notoriety in the hacker community, and it even comes preloaded in Kali. The new version though, rocku2021.txt, is less exciting. Whilst yes, it is over 250 times the size of the original version, this new iteration seems to just be a compilation of previous smaller breaches. There's sadly, or gladly, nothing new to see here. It was probably only named as such to increase the attention it received. However, certain websites have gotten all hyped up over this new leak and have dubbed it the mother of all password leaks, when in reality there's no real need to scramble to check have I been pwned over this news. If you weren't pwned yesterday, this leak isn't going to have changed that. Researchers at Proofpoint have identified a new old extortion group. This group has been around for a while and is known for impersonating various APTs, such as the Russian Fancy Bear group, as well as the North Korean Lazarus group. They do this in order to scare victims into paying up. After all, if you believe an elite Russian state-sponsored hacking group is after you, you're well within your rights to be a little spooked. Well, now the shape-shifting gang is back, and have christened themselves Fancy Lazarus. If LARPing as one world-renowned APT wasn't enough, now they've figured out a way to cover both fronts at the same time. Innovation at its finest. This group sends out emails to victim companies threatening to shut down their operations with a 2 terabits per second DDoS attack if a ransom of 2 Bitcoin isn't paid within a matter of days. This price increases for each day past the payment deadline. DDoS attacks have seen quite an uptick during lockdowns, as people working from home need to use company servers. If these go down, then you have an issue. It's one thing for your customer-facing website to become inaccessible, but if your employees can't even work, then it's a whole other mess. Luckily for the victims of Fancy Lazarus, an FBI flash details that their threats are more often than not bluffs, as most organizations targeted do not receive that 2 terabits of power, or if they did, it was easily mitigated. There's a new fake streaming service on the interwebs. Bravo Movies is a remarkable example of the extent some bad actors will go to in order to compromise your PC. On the face of it, Bravo Movies looks like any other streaming service, but on closer inspection, some of its top-rated movies look a little odd. Judging by its cover, you'd be forgiven for thinking, The Dog Wolf is a critically acclaimed, intense psychological thriller. Unfortunately, I must disappoint you in that it doesn't exist. In fact, none of these films exist. I'm not sure why our bad actors here went to the trouble of making covers for fake films. There are plenty of real ones out there, and I don't think the possibility of copyright infringement should be too high up their list of worries. The fact they're trying to hack you with this site is more of a crime, I would have thought. Anyhow, the rest of the site is equally elaborate and rather convincing. Cybersecurity company Proofpoint wrote a report which details just how this site aims to ransack your PC. Victims would receive a phishing email, a rather poorly put together one considering just how much effort went into the site. Anyhow, the email claimed that the recipient's Bravo Movies free trial was coming to an end and that their card was about to be charged. Of course, there was no free trial. The objective of this email was to convince users that they had somehow signed themselves up to a free trial by accident and get them to phone the Bravo Movies support line and request a cancellation. A real person would answer the phone and instruct users to visit the site, but clicking the cancel subscription button would for some reason download an Excel spreadsheet. You might know where this is going. The customer service agent told users in order to cancel their subscription, they should open the spreadsheet and then enable macros. Macros in Microsoft Office are regularly abused. Macros simply allow custom code to be inserted into an Excel or Word document, so enabling macros in an untrusted document is as bad as opening an untrusted exe file. Luckily for criminals, this is a little known fact. Enabling macros in this case would cause Basiloader to be covertly installed. Basiloader is a first stage payload, meaning it's used to download additional malware. Proofpoint didn't observe what the second stage payload in this campaign was, however Basiloader has been known to install ransomware. The infection chain here is really quite involved. There's a lot a user has to do in order to become pwned. Usually bad actors don't create such elaborate infection chains as it increases friction for the user, which usually means less people end up getting infected. Cybercriminals prefer infection vectors which are less hassle. It's really quite interesting that streaming cancellation has been used as a vector in this campaign, as according to Fortune, in the past few months people have been scrambling to reduce the streaming services that they're subscribed to, as during the pandemic, with all the free time we had, the average streaming customer had 5 subscriptions, but unsurprisingly that's now falling. Seeing an opportunity to cash in, this may have been what prompted criminals to go after the trend, to just convince people that Bravo Movies was one of the streaming services that they had signed up to and just forgotten. Bravo Movies has since disappeared from the internet in the last few days. If you enjoy this kind of video, make sure to help me out by hitting a like for the YouTube AI, as well as turn on those sub notifications. If you're looking for something to watch next, go check out my previous video on how the FBI modified Google Pixels, introducing a secret backdoor allowing them to spy on criminals and track their every move. If you like this series of videos, do consider becoming a channel member. As always, sources will be linked in the video description. Stay tuned for more hacking videos, and have a good one.